What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the very first episode of Friday Night Rentals. Now, if you guys grew up in the 80s, then you know what the deal is. Friday nights meant hitting the video stores, roaming the aisles, and arguing with your friends and family over which stack of tapes would get you guys through the weekend. It wasn't just about the movies, it was about the ritual, the box art, the over-the-top taglines, the adventure, and yes, even the smell of the plastic VHS cases. In this series, we're dusting off the old shelves to revisit forgotten gems, cult classics, the what were they thinking titles, and everything in between that I think defined an era of home video. I'll cover 10 movies in each episode, movies that I think made the 80s weekends legendary, so grab your membership card, rewind your tapes, and let's dive into 10 rentals from the 1980s that I think deserve another spin, because this is nostalgia, this is VHS gold, this is Friday Night Rentals. In 1987, Canon Films would give us Masters of the Universe, a gloriously weird mix of sword and sorcery and 80s cheese. Dolph Lundgren flexed his way through this one as He-Man, Frank Langella stole the show as Skeletor, and somehow Courtney Cox got caught in the middle of everything. It's part fantasy epic, part fish-out-of-water comedy, and pure VHS spectacle. Now, Masters of the Universe, in theory, was supposed to be the movie that had turned Saturday morning cartoons into big screen magic, and what we actually got was Dolph Lundgren as He-Man wandering around Earth and Frank Langella chewing scenery as Skeletor like it was a 5-course meal. And you know what? As a kid grabbing this off the rental shelf, it was pure home video gold. Sure, Eternia looked suspiciously like California, and the special effects ranged from not that bad to was that a flashlight? But none of that mattered on a Friday night with friends, a slice of pizza, a pile of Cheetos, and a cold Mountain Dew in your hand. Looking back, the movie was part of Canon Films' wild gamble to crack into the mainstream, and while it didn't exactly dethrone Star Wars, it did carve out a cult following. Frank Langella has even admitted that he loved playing Skeletor, and it shows. He brings Shakespeare-level intensity to a role that could have easily just been a guy cackling in a mask. And for fans, the movie is less about being faithful to the toys and more about just embodying that anything goes energy of 80s cinema. It may not be high art, but it does have heart, endless camp, and just the kind of earnestness that makes it impossible not to smile at, solidifying itself as a time capsule of the era when toy commercials could become entire blockbusters. Now, since we're on the topic of just 80s movie experiments, we're going to go from cosmic battles to glow-in-the-dark bedroom disasters in John Ritter with this next movie. John Ritter in a sex comedy about midlife crisis. That's Skin Deep, a 1989 Blake Edwards comedy that asked, what if Three's Company dropped the laugh track and went full R-rated with Ritter juggling exes, girlfriends on the side, and endless bedroom hijinks? It's both raunchy, oddly sweet, and very much a time capsule of late 80s adult comedy. By 1989, John Ritter had already earned his place in TV history as the lovable goofball from Three's Company, but here in Skin Deep, he would take things in a much raunchier direction, playing a womanizing novelist whose personal life is as messy as a dorm room VHS collection. For anyone renting this back in the late 80s, it was a little bit jarring to see Ritter trade slapstick for bedroom disasters, but that's also what kind of made it fun. It wasn't just Jack Tripper tripping over a couch, it was Ritter fumbling through midlife crisis, awkward relationships, and yes, the now infamous glow-in-the-dark condom duel, a scene that I think deserves its own place in the Comedic Hall of Fame.
Easy. I know I haven't had one that lasted this long since I was 12.
Skin Deep just lived in that space where late 80s comedies would try to balance heartfelt lessons with outrageous gags. Some of it lands, a lot of it feels dated, but Ritter's charm keeps all of it afloat with ease. He manages to just make even the most absurd moment relatable, and that reminds us why he was just such a beloved presence on screen and such a comedic force of nature. For many, this was the rental you didn't admit to watching with the family, but it definitely circulated on Friday nights for anybody in the mood for something a little spicier than, say, Weekend at Bernie's. And looking back, Skin Deep certainly isn't a classic, but it is a time capsule, the kind of movie that just dared to push boundaries while still keeping one foot planted in sitcom territory. It may not be Ritter's defining role, but it's proof that he could carry a film, even one with glow sticks in the wrong places. Now, if Ritter's glow-in-the-dark duel wasn't wild enough for you, wait until you see what happens when Elvira takes over small-town America in this next flick. Cassandra Peterson would take her campy TV horror host persona to the big screen in 1988 with Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, equal parts spooky and silly. It followed Elvira inheriting a creepy mansion in a conservative town, unleashing chaos, cleavage, and a killer casserole. Think Bewitched meets Morticia Addams meets late night TV. Elvira here would burst out of the late-night television screen and into small-town America with Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. Cassandra Peterson brought her full, campy, sassy horror host persona to the big screen in this one, trading the gothic glamour of her TV show for a full-length story about inheriting a creepy mansion and accidentally shaking up a conservative small town. For anybody renting this back in the day, it was a delightful mix of horror, comedy, and just the right amount of cleavage-fueled chaos to ignite many young teens' curiosity of the dark side. What makes Elvira so memorable, though, isn't just the jokes or the more than slightly absurd plot, it's really Peterson herself. I mean, she walks that tight line between spooky and ridiculous with total confidence, turning even the most outlandish scenarios into just a performance you can't look away from. The townspeople in this movie, they may be uptight, but the movie itself doesn't take itself seriously at all, which is exactly why it works. You can almost imagine kids on Friday nights back in the day watching this in the dark, whispering, "You think she has the plants?" while secretly not caring either way. Pop culture-wise, Elvira would be cemented as a symbol of 80s camp and Halloween celebration, influencing everything from costumes to late-night horror hosting for years to come. Today, it's not just a movie, it's a bit of a reminder of a time when horror and comedy could just collide in bold, bright, ridiculous, and utterly entertaining ways. And watching it now, it's impossible not to smile at the charm of it all, the sass of it all, and just the sheer audacity that this movie had. And while Elvira did have her worm-filled casserole, several years earlier, Robin Williams was rocking some impressive forearms and feasting on spinach in this next video store gem. Prior to achieving award-winning stardom, Robin Williams strapped on the giant forearms to play the spinach-guzzling sailor in Robert Altman's comedy musical Popeye from 1980. Shelley Duvall is perfect as olive oil, and the movie is as strange and offbeat as the comic strips it's based on. Today it's a musical oddity, a total throwback, and truly unforgettable. Before Robin Williams became the genie, Mrs. Doubtfire, or the inspirational teacher who made us stand on our desks. He was Popeye, giant forearms, squinty eye, corncob pipe and all. This was one of those rentals you grabbed out of sheer curiosity or just found yourself watching on cable in the middle of the afternoon on a weekend. Was it comedy? Was it a musical? Was it a live action cartoon? And I guess the answer would be yes, yes, and yes, while also being kind of a what the hell did I just watch experience. Williams in his first leading role just throws himself into the sailor persona with mumbled lines and plenty of I am what I am, while Shelley Duvall might be the most perfectly cast olive oil imaginable. The songs are quirky, the sets look like they were built from driftwood and spare paint, and the whole thing just feels less like a blockbuster and more like an oddball stage play that somehow wound up on a VHS tape and got circulated.
I said fooey, and I mean fooey. Fooey.
For kids, it was strange but fascinating, the kind of movie you couldn't stop watching even if you weren't sure you liked it or not. And for adults, it's become a cult curiosity, remembered as much for its ambition as it was for its bizarre execution overall. And pop culture wise, Popeye never really hit the heights of other comic strip adaptations, but it showed that Robin Williams was destined for bigger things, and looking back now, it's just a weird, lovable relic of the era, the kind of tape that you found in just the family section and gave it a rental once, if only to see Robin Williams sing about spinach. Now from cartoon-inspired sailors, we're going to step into ghost cars and Charlie Sheen returning from the dead to haunt the desert highways in this next flick. In 1986, Charlie Sheen starred in a supernatural car revenge movie where a murdered teen comes back as a mysterious driver of a turbocharged Dodge Interceptor. Toss in Sherilyn Fenn, a magnificently over-the-top Nick Cassavetes, and backlit desert highways, and you've got one of the wildest ghost car movies the 80s ever produced. Now, if you rented The Wraith in 1986, the chances are you didn't fully know what you were getting into, and that was half the fun. The cover art promised muscle cars, young love, something supernatural, and the movie delivered all of that with a dash of Charlie Sheen for good measure. The story follows a teen who's murdered by a desert gang and comes back from the dead, reincarnated as a mysterious driver behind the wheel of a sleek, otherworldly Dodge Turbo Interceptor. So think Fast and the Furious meets Poltergeist meets summer teen romance. The movie is part revenge thriller, part sci-fi fantasy, part car commercial. Every race feels like it was filmed just for the VHS trailer reel, and honestly, that's what makes it such a good time. Back in the rental days, this was the perfect pick for teens looking for something edgy but not too heavy. Fast cars, revenge, and a supernatural twist that you could talk about at school on Monday. Cassavetes truly got the memo here, and is just his delightful overacting is really a treat. My friends and I absolutely loved this movie growing up.
There's a kid out there using his car to kill people. Not that it's such a big deal, since it seems to be your gang he's got it in for.
And over time, The Wraith has carved out cult status. It's remembered less for its plot coherence and much more for its atmosphere, its vibrantly lit desert highways, its killer soundtrack, and a sense of stylish weirdness that just screams mid-80s cinema. It's not perfect, but like a souped-up car, it didn't have to be. It just had to look cool when it blasted past you, with The Wraith proving that fast cars and revenge could be a perfect recipe for teenage intrigue. This concept, however, wasn't nearly as wild as this next movie, based on the gross-out kid sticker cars that we all had at least a few of when we were a kid. The world of trading cards were never the same after the Garbage Pail Kids would burst onto the scene like a high school pimple. They were an absolute success, so in 1987, we got the Garbage Pail Kids movie, a childish fever dream featuring rubber-faced puppet abominations trying to fit in with humans. It's part musical, part moral lesson, all nightmare fuel, and the perfect movie for a night with a few friends and a whole lot of drinks. Now, if you grew up with these cars and you traded them with your friends, then you probably thought the Garbage Pail Kids movie would be the ultimate rental. Instead, it turned into the kind of VHS you rented once, then hid in the back of the shelf like a family secret. The story follows a group of deformed, rubber-faced puppets trying to survive in the human world, and while it's pitched as a wacky kid adventure, it mostly plays like childhood nightmare fuel with a theme song and iconically bizarre puppetry. For kids, it was both fascinating and disturbing. The costumes looked like they were built in someone's garage, and the expressions never changed, which made them weirdly terrifying. Adults who rented it probably wondered how it ever got past a pitch meeting, and yet there's something strangely admirable about how unapologetically odd it is. I remember enjoying it as a kid because I was a kid and I loved the Garbage Pail Kids. It didn't take much more than that at 10 or 11 years old. But pop culture wise, the movie bombed. It certainly came too late in the GPK wave of popularity, but it remains infamous, the kind of movie people think about when listing the strangest adaptations of all time. If nothing else, the Garbage Pail Kids movie proved that not every toy or trading card deserved a movie, but every movie deserved at least one confusing rental back in the day. Now, if you're looking for a movie that's a bit more straightforward and much more grounded, let's reset things with Burt Reynolds playing a Vegas bodyguard with a mustache that can save the day every day and twice on Sundays. Not to be confused with the De Niro versus Pacino heat, this movie came out in 1986. It stars Burt Reynolds as a Vegas bodyguard who gets in over his head with the mob. It's an action thriller that delivers plenty of Reynolds charm, plenty of mustaches, a few sucker punches. It's a gritty little neo-noir that definitely deserves a second spin around the rental bin. I think this movie delivers Reynolds in all of his iconic glory, mustache intact and charm set to maximum. Here, Burt plays Nick Escalante, a Las Vegas chaperone who's basically a bodyguard for hire that has a soft spot for damsels in distress and a knack for making bad guys regret their career choices.
No, I like to think of myself as being in the people business.
This movie just has that classic VHS shelf appeal, a grizzled Burt in a leather jacket, a title that promises action, and a tagline that whispered danger. But Heat isn't just about the barroom brawls and Burt flexing his cool factor. It's a slower burn, more of a character study than a straight-up action romp, which probably threw off a few weekend renters who just wanted to see car chases and explosions. Instead, you get Burt playing poker, navigating Vegas lowlifes, and unleashing sudden bursts of violence that remind you, oh yeah, this guy was Gator McCluskey after all back in the 70s. Looking back now, it feels like one of those transition films for Reynolds, sitting between his lighthearted comedies and his grittier tough guy roles, and while it didn't set the box office on fire, it became one of those tapes you'd stumble across on the rental shelf and think, oh, why the hell not? Only to spend the weekend feeling like you just discovered a Burt hidden gem. Not his most famous outing, but definitely one that I think earns a spot in the nostalgia bin. Now, we're going to step from the tough guys of Vegas over to the summer beaches of Miami for this next flick about a couple of teen troublemakers. Before Johnny Depp was an A-lister, he was just a horny teenager running around Private Resort in 1985 alongside Rob Marrow. Depp and him scheme their way through a Florida getaway filled with bikini-clad chaos. It's the kind of teen sex comedy that just defined the 80s, complete with slapstick, bad decisions, gratuitous nudity, and questionable fashion. Before Johnny Depp was sailing the high seas as Captain Jack Sparrow, he was chasing girls around a Miami hotel and Private Resort. This was Depp's first real starring role, and let's just say it wasn't exactly Oscar bait. Teaming up with Rob Marrow, the duo plays buddies, spending a weekend at a luxury resort where the mission is pretty simple: meet women, avoid getting in trouble, and repeat. Of course, trouble finds them anyway in the form of mistaken identities, a jewel thief played to perfection by Hector Elizondo, and endless slapstick chaos. And that's really all you needed. This movie is pure 1980s teen comedy energy, living somewhere between Porky's and Spring Break. It's silly, raunchy, about as subtle as a water balloon to the face, but that's the charm of it all. Back in the rental days, you could almost hear this VHS box whisper to you as you walked by, "Parents are out of town? This movie's for you." And while critics didn't exactly roll out the red carpet, I think Private Resort has a goofy charm to it, especially now that it's retroactively funny to see Johnny Depp in such a lightweight romp before he would become Hollywood royalty. It's the kind of movie that wasn't really on heavy rotation on cable TV, which made renting it feel a little bit like you were in on a secret. And for fans of 80s comedies, it's just a reminder that not every single movie needed depth. Sometimes you just needed a goofy weekend escape with a side of neon swimsuits. Now, if you prefer a bit more sophistication with your laughs, then this next movie, featuring a great ensemble cast, really does dial up the charm, dials up the wit, and it definitely dials up the double crossing. Jamie Lee Curtis, Kevin Kline, John Cleese, and Michael Palin headline this 1988 British-American heist comedy about jewel thieves double-crossing each other in hilarious ways. A Fish Called Wanda is sharp, witty, and unpredictable, with Kline's Oscar-winning performance proving that stupidity can be genius. When A Fish Called Wanda hit shelves in 1988, it wasn't your typical weekend rental comedy. Sure, it had laughs, but it also had a clever heist plot, a cast stacked with talent, and enough British wit to make you feel a little bit smarter while you were chuckling. Starring John Cleese, Jamie Lee Curtis, Kevin Kline, and Michael Palin, the movie follows a diamond heist gone sideways with double-crossing, backstabbing, and a whole lot of awkward romance. Jamie Lee Curtis plays the sharp and seductive Wanda. Kevin Kline steals scenes as the dim but dangerously unpredictable Otto, and Cleese delivers one of his best post-Monty Python performances as a guy caught in the chaos. Kline even walked away with an Academy Award for his role, not something you see every day from a VHS comedy rental, but admittedly, this movie was a box office beast, so it was certainly much more than just that. What made A Fish Called Wanda stand out back then and still today is how it balances screwball humor with clever writing. You get slapstick gags, witty dialogue, and moments that just bordered on farce, all while keeping the story tight. And for a Friday night rental, it offered laughs that landed just as well for teens sneaking in a late night watch as it did for parents who claimed they just wanted something light. And over the years, I think it's aged like fine wine, and if you ever wanted proof that comedies could be both smart and hilarious, Wanda is the tape that you'd point at on the shelf. Now, finally, what better way to close out this video than with Anthony Michael Hall ditching his nerd roots and stumbling into LA crime in this last video store classic in this episode. Anthony Michael Hall would take a break from the world of teen comedy to star in a teen thrown into the underworld thriller called Out of Bounds in 1986. After arriving in LA, he gets mixed up with drugs and gangsters and a whole lot of danger. It's a gritty departure for Hall, part crime flick, part fish out of water adventure that certainly gets overlooked. Now, if you wandered into a video store in the late 80s and you saw Out of Bounds on the shelf, you might have thought to yourself, wait, that's Anthony Michael Hall, but it doesn't look like he's playing a nerd. And you'd be right. Fresh off his Breakfast Club fame, Hall took a hard left turn into action thriller territory with this 1986 flick, playing a small town farm kid who accidentally stumbles into a Los Angeles drug deal gone horribly wrong when his bag is switched, and the next thing you know, he's on the run, framed for murder and being hunted by both drug dealers and cops. The movie really is a time capsule of mid-80s LA. You got neon lights, shady nightclubs, and a city that looks just as dangerous as it does cool. It's part chase movie, part fish out of water story, and part attempt to rebrand Hall as something more than just John Hughes' go-to awkward teen. And while the box office didn't exactly buy into the transformation, Out of Bounds found its way into rental racks where curious fans of Hall could see their favorite geek suddenly outrunning bad guys and dodging bullets. And looking back, it's the kind of oddball career move that actually makes perfect sense in the VHS era. It may not have launched Hall into action stardom, but it gave us a gritty little cult movie that's fun to revisit. If nothing else, it's proof that in the 80s, even the nerdiest kid in school could be one bad weekend away from becoming an action hero, and that's why as a teen I always loved these teen adventure and thriller movies. And that's it for today, guys. That's a wrap on our very first stack of Friday night rentals. Hopefully this trip down video lane brought back some memories of sticky carpets and rewinding tapes and arguing over who got to pick the first movie, whether you were rediscovering a classic here, adding a forgotten flick to your watch list, or just enjoyed the ride. That's what this series is all about. Celebrating the magic of Friday nights at the video store. And don't forget, this is just the beginning. I've got more 80s gems lined up in the next episode. I also have a few different series that I'm going to be launching at the same time to work in amongst each other to keep it interesting. So be kind, rewind, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a video. And until the next one, movies never say die.
It's Jack Burton in the Pork Chop Express, and I'm talking to whoever's listening out there.
Flag of war. You gotta become war.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
You trying to say Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?